I'm leaving Sri Lanka's cultural triangle and heading for the hills. As a kid growing up in Sri Lanka, I used to love the train. My uncle was a train driver and he'd let me ride in the engine with him. This all brings back such magical memories. So nice to be in the trains again. We're coming up to our station now, so off on the next part of the adventure. Today I'm visiting the legendary tea fields of Ceylon. First thing every morning, an army of colourful ladies march into the tea fields, continuing a tradition that has been going on exactly like this for hundreds of years. The cup was on tea. Is the way incredible skill to determination is leaves. Also able to take the bud and 2 leaves. Machines basically take a whole lot off the top, but hand picking produces the best tea in the world, and that's Ceylon tea. These ladies pick 16 to 20 kilos per day. It's crucial to the ongoing success of Ceylon tea because hand picking ensures the leaves aren't bruised. And for a real treat, I've been invited into a tea picker's home, or more accurately, into her kitchen. So this lady who I've just met is a tea picker here, and she's going to make some sambar, which is the perfect sort of hot, saucy soup, a little bit of paripu or dal soup, tose, and tose, which is my favourite. First step, washing it. Have to wash lentils all the time, get the stones out, especially up here. You know, you buy the lentils, unscrupulous sellers sometimes put a few rocks in them to make it weigh a little bit more. Hello. Namaste. This is how you add salt in Sri Lanka. You buy rock salt and then you add water to it. So the paripu, or lentil soup with spices, goes onto the fire, and then the coconut milk is added. Done now? You know how to do this? The kitchen is central to family life. It's where ancient skills and recipes are passed down, and it's where Mum always asserts her position in the family. Do you cook? Yeah? Good cook? You? No? You always got to let the mother cook. Mother's always the boss in these situations. Ah, so then she cooks. Okay, so when she heads off to work, then she'll take over the kitchen. It's probably the best time because when Mum comes home, she'll be checking it out and making sure that everything's seasoned properly as well. Oh, mage achi. Ah, so it's the same. So her grandmother was the same to her mother. That older generation, they were worse than Gordon Ramsay. These ladies were tough in the kitchen, tough, hitting with spoons and all kinds of stuff to make sure they got that flavour right. And now for the tose. That is ground up white lentils, which are flavoured and fermented. Coconut oil, give it a rub. Next, very gently spread from the centre outwards. Now the big test. Ah, very nice. Very nice. Everyone's looking. Namaste. Simple, beautiful meal. Cooked by this lovely lady, and being invited into their house has been an absolute pleasure. Taste fantastic. Nandri.
Welcome.
What some people may not realise is that tea is also great to cook with. I'm going to use tea, make a prawn-infused mulligatawny soup and serve it with grilled prawns as well. Let's start. Very simply. First thing I'm doing is just adding some prawn shells. I've peeled the prawns and I've got them put aside for later on. So I need to make a prawn stock. Curry leaves, garlic, a green chilli, a hot red chilli, a little bit of ginger, and some onions in here as well. I'm just going to boil that up. It'll take about 20 minutes to do. Mulligatawny also was quite a simple soup. It didn't have many vegetables in it, but I'm going to add some in. So I've got some really nice local carrots and eggplants, which I'm just going to chop fine. Adds a bit of body to the soup as well and make it taste really good. Eggplants, these beautiful eggplants from the markets. Nice dice on this as well. Some chopped onion. Now, for this soup, I'm going to fry off all of these ingredients. A little bit of oil into the pan, some of these wonderful curry leaves, and I'm also going to put tomato into it. Get the oil nice and hot. Into this, I'm putting roasted fenugreek seeds, a good dob of chili powder. It's a very peppery and hot soup, so don't be scared. A lot of ground black pepper. Always good to grind your black peppercorns. Roasted cumin. Roasted fennel. Seeds, that is. 1 whole red chilli. Some beautiful saffron. Just a little pinch. It'll add that colour. That's also where that lovely colour for mulligatawny comes from. Some turmeric to just give the yellow colour a bit of a boost. And finally, a little bit of coriander powder. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add my curry paste into my stock. And we'll have a really nice, spicy stock. Okie dokie. So that flavour of prawn and all the spices is there. I'm keeping the pan, I'm not emptying it, and I'm not washing it. I'm just going to add some more oil to it and then fry off my vegetables. Gently fry these. The tomato will break down, that's the idea. Seafood stocks don't need a lot of time to cook. You don't have to cook them like a meat stock for ages. Once it comes up to the boil, most of the flavour's already come out of it. 20 minutes maximum. So when it has boiled, I'm going to turn it right down. Now, the reason I'm turning it down is as it simmers, the shells will sort of solidify and set, and it'll clarify the stock. I'm just going to put a little bit of finely chopped curry leaves. Nice and fine. Make sure that the carrots and the eggplant are starting to cook really nicely. Add the curry leaves. Okay, taste my stock. It's peppery. Now the next thing is preparing the prawns. Firstly, I want to skewer my prawns. So I've peeled them, I've deveined them, and a prawn doesn't come straight, it's bent. So what you need to do is just put 2 or 3 marks on the prawn and it'll straighten out. And that way it'll go onto your skewer well. Prawns have a spike on their tail right here, right between the 2 little fins at the back. So it's always a good idea just to pull that off. That way, when people put this into their mouth, it won't hurt them. I'm straining my stock. Alrighty, you can smell the prawns there. My soup is pretty much done. It's come up to the boil. Carrots are nicely cooked. A little bit of seasoning, bring out all the flavours, and one of these lovely little limes, squeezing all of that beautiful juice out of it. Clear up, and I'm going to now dip these prawns. So I've got some mayonnaise, some freshly chopped garlic. I've also got some red chilies here, which I've roasted off. And I'm going to chop up. That's going to add colour and obviously a little bit of a bite to it as well. And some lovely parsley. Parsley adds a colour to it. Now, my secret ingredient, obviously tea. I've got myself some single estate tea, which means that the tea was all grown in one area. It means no blends, not coming from anywhere else. And to break tea down so that you can eat it rather than just drinking it, you need to roast it a little bit. So I'm just going to toast it, stir it around a bit, and what happens is it goes all crispy and crunchy, and I'll turn it off before it starts to burn. And I'm going to add a little bit here to my mix, but what I'll do is sprinkle a little bit on top, so that's really the star at the end of the day. All right, now for the grilling of the prawns. A little bit of oil. Prawns don't have to cook all the way through. If French, you just cook until they're translucent inside. So, you do is you roll your prawn around, get it covered in this beautiful mixture, and you can imagine the flavours that are going to go through this with the garlic and the parsley and everything, and then garnish it with a little bit of tea. Now my soup, which is looking lovely, give it a good stir, make sure you get all those flavours mixed together. Put that in, and my cucumber right in the front. The dish is done, but there's one more thing to do, and that's finish it off with the garnish. And what would I do here except use 2 leaves and a bud from the bushes out there, a lovely piece of tea. Cinnamon is a spice that finds its way into almost every kitchen in the world. Well, did you know that 80% of it is grown right here in Sri Lanka? This is the first stage of making a cinnamon stick. You have to gently and evenly scrape all the bark away. The bark's useless, it's not used for anything else, but every other piece of this stick will be used later down the track. I'm going to have a shot. Watch it there. What's incredible about cinnamon production is that it's so labour intensive. Every step from stripping the outer bark to cutting the inner bark is done by hand. The outer bark comes, and then all the little pieces are shoved manually into this to make a cinnamon stick like this. And it really gives you a little bit of respect for the humble cinnamon stick. With this amazing spice, I'm going to make wild boar curry, but with pork, pol roti, which is coconut roti. I'll get into it now. It's always good to have pork with a little bit of fat on it. It gives it some flavour, nice and juicy, keeps it moist, and we're going to marinate it first. It's important to marinate this to get all the flavours through, because I'm not really going to fry much on this. Black pepper, that's a black curry. Whenever they mention black curry, you can generally assume that there's black pepper in it. Chilli, lots of it. This has got to be one of those fiery dishes. Now this is the interesting one that's going to add the sourness to it. This is called gorica. I'm going to put some cardamoms in there to add the flavour. Uluhau, or fenugreek seeds. These have been roasted lightly. Too much equals bitterness. The other thing I'm going to use is some roasted curry powder, salt, a fair bit of it, and then this cinnamon. Now, you know, I've talked about this and how wonderful it is. Let's use a fair bit of it. I'm breaking it up so that it goes through the whole mix. Get your hands in there and massage it to get it fish to make sure that all that through it. Now, grate a coconut. Got it. If you're trying to get any of the internal brown colour, just discolours your salads. Doesn't really make the flavour much different. I love pol roti. My dad used to make it all the time, and it's so simple, but such a hearty little bit of bread. Some atta flour, which is like a raw wheat flour. You can just make this plain with a little bit of salt, but I like to add quite a few little ingredients to it. Firstly, chopped green chilli, really finely chopped. You don't want big chunks through it. This onion needs to be chopped quite fine. The reason is that when we roll this out, and I'm not using a rolling pin when I do it, but when we roll this out, if there's big chunks in it, what's going to happen is that they will end up breaking the dough. And I'm going to add a little bit more flavour by putting in some finely chopped curry leaves. Now, put it all together. Ghee is really good because it softens the dough, so a good dollop of that. And finally, is freshly grated coconut. Add water. One last thing too, salt. Better to put salt now when you're mixing it through rather than to wait later on because it's going to be hard to infuse it. Make sure that you work the gluten strands and make a really nice dough, a dough that you can see it hasn't stuck to my hands, and if you break it open, all of it's mixed through really well. Now, I'm just going to break it into balls and put it aside and get this curry cooking. Even balls is always good. That way you get the same size roti every time. All right, let's start cooking. I'm going to fry a few ingredients to go with the meat, starting off with chilies. Doesn't have to be as finely chopped this time. Ginger, I'm just rough chopping all of this. The onions are just sliced. Garlic, lots of it, and crushed. So to assist with the crushing, just a good spoonful of salt. And then with the back of your knife, just pull it towards you. And the salt works with the garlic and just really crushes it up well, and you have a really nice garlic paste. Look behind me. It's starting to close in. We're up in the mountains and the mist is coming through, so I'm going to knock this over really quickly. Lots of ghee. Get it really nice and hot, and then some curry leaves, some of this lovely pandan, which will give you a great aroma. Now, and it smells so good, so good. Fry off all these onions. Comes and goes, doesn't it? It's amazing. It's really just mist. Because we're so high in the mountains in the tea fields, looks green and beautiful 1 minute, and then next minute it's gone. But we've seen a fair bit of the waterfall now, so concentrate on the cooking. When you cook meat, you normally think, well, I should brown the meat off. But by putting this curry into a marinade, putting this pork into a marinade, it's coated itself. And really, what we're going to do now is just boil it. I just need to mix all those flavours through. There's a lot of chilli in here, guys. A lot of chilli. That's what you need. Okay? And then water, just to cover. High heat, boil it until it just starts to thicken, then turn it down. It'll take, again, depending on the heat of your stove, between 10 to 25 minutes, probably. Put a little bit of ghee on it. Rub it around. You can see the balls now are beautiful and soft. So just with your hand, spread them out nice and evenly so that you get it all the way around the pan. And now this lovely roti is going to go on. Just reshape it when you put it on. Perfect. All right, I'm going to serve it up. We're in the tea field, so I'm going to do a little bit of tea sprinkling. Serve my carrot salad. My roti. I can smell that coconut coming out of them too. It's so yummy. Stick that on there, and I'm going to put a little bit more coconut. Now the heat from the roti will melt the oil through and make it even more delectable. Next, it's just thickened up so much. Pour it in. I've got a hearty pork curry from the region, sweet carrots, a roti that's still hot and steaming with beautiful fresh coconut on top of it. It's all I really need. One beer and I'm probably sorted for the week.